Marina Valcrest screeched that she didn't care if my inbred clan had squatted here since the Stone Age, that this was her lake now and I was trespassing on HOA property, while she stood on my great-grandfather's hand-built dock. Her designer heels ground into timber older than her entire lineage. The punch of her overpriced perfume clashed with the pine needles, the same way everything about her collided with basic decency. She flung an arm toward 32 identical rental cabins plastered across my family's island like a suburban rash. Demolish that shack and pay 85 grand, or I'll bring in the bulldozers myself. 3 years later, I stood in that exact spot, watching her load the last boxes. Turned out every one of those cabins sat on land that belonged to me. The courts agreed, and when the judge handed me the keys to her lakefront palace, the one also planted on my property, well, let's just say karma enjoys a punchline. What would you do if your HOA tried to swipe your family's generational land? Where are you watching from, and what's your worst HOA horror story? My name is Jonah Whitlock, and that island's been in my bloodline since 1896. My great-grandfather, Harlan, bought 47 acres of untouched Lake Clearwater wilderness for $200. About what Marina probably drops on a single manicure these days. 4 generations of Whitlocks carved out their lives on that ground. Hand-hewn log cabin, off-grid solar that actually works, a rainwater collection setup that would make a prepper tear up with joy. We never developed it, never commercialized it, just lived there, fished there, and found quiet there. I'm 52, a retired marine engineer. Spent 20 years throwing up bridges in places where people shoot at you for entertainment. I came home 2 years ago after my wife Lena died. Cancer, the kind that steals everything good and leaves you hollow. The island was supposed to be our place to mend, where we'd build a retreat for veterans wrestling with PTSD. Lena drafted the plans herself, sketching therapy gardens where the old fishing paths thread through the pines. Instead, I found myself dealing with Marina Valcrest. Picture a realtor who traded her soul for a luxury EV and a lakefront showpiece. 48, divorced from the county zoning director, a tie that gave her more pull at City Hall than a John Boat motor. She runs the Clearwater Luxury Communities HOA like it's her private realm, complete with a 47-page rule book that makes the IRS code read like a children's primer. The day she first sailed in, I was swapping out dock planks, meditative work that keeps your hands occupied while your mind sorts through grief. Then I heard it, the furious whine of an overpowered speedboat slicing the morning calm like a chainsaw through a symphony. Marina stepped onto my dock in a white pantsuit that probably cost more than my truck, clutching a clipboard thick enough to stop a bullet. Her perfume hit me before she did, something pricey and aggressive that made the wood smoke from my morning fire smell apologetic. "Are you Jonah Whitlock?" She didn't wait for a reply. "I'm Marina Valcrest, president of Clearwater Luxury Communities HOA. We need to address your compliance violations." I set down my hammer and wiped my calloused hands on my jeans, the contrast between her manicured nails and my work-worn fingers saying more than words. "I'm sorry. What violations?" She consulted her clipboard like it held nuclear launch codes. "Your property falls under our expanded community boundaries as of last year. This structure," she waved dismissively at the cabin my great-grandfather raised, "violates roughly 37 architectural standards." I remembered from my military legal training that HOAs love to claim expanded jurisdiction, but they need proper channels and member votes to make it stick. Something told me I should check whether Marina's boundary expansion actually got filed with the county. Most folks assume it's legit, but you'd be amazed how often it isn't. "Ma'am, with respect, this island predates your HOA by over a century." "Property law doesn't care about your feelings, Mr. Whitlock." Her smile was sharp enough to gut a fish. "You have 30 days to bring this property into compliance or face foreclosure proceedings. Total assessment, including retroactive fees, is $85,000. The locals at Murphy's Marina had warned me about Marina. She's got more complaints filed than the health department has roaches, old Nora said while selling me boat fuel. Goes after anybody who doesn't fit her country club vision of lakefront living. Marina shoved a stack of papers at me thick enough to build a small cabin, spun on her designer heel, and clicked back to her boat. As she roared off, leaving a wake that rocked my kayak against the dock, I caught diesel exhaust colliding with her perfume, a combo that perfectly summed up everything wrong with this mess. That night, sitting by the fire Lena and I built together, I read every page. Marina wanted me to remove my solar panels, demolish my composting toilet, pave my garden, and paint everything beige. Basically, turn my family sanctuary into a suburban nightmare. I looked out at the water, at the oak where my great-grandfather carved his initials, and made a choice. If Marina Valcrest wanted a fight, she'd have one. She just had no idea what she'd started. Week 2 delivered a certified letter thick enough to stop a bullet. Valcrest Associates law firm. Apparently, Marina had promoted herself from realtor to legal eagle. The letterhead was fancier than a wedding invite, complete with gold embossing that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. Her latest stroke of genius, my island access road crossed HOA property. Technically true. There's a 50-foot easement linking the mainland to my dock. But now she wanted $1,200 a month for road maintenance fees. Retroactive 5 years. 72 grand for a gravel track that hadn't seen upkeep since the first Bush administration. The smell of fresh asphalt and bureaucracy hung in the air as I drove to the county courthouse. I spent 3 hours in the basement records room, boxed in by files that looked like they'd been there since Moses wore diapers, digging through deeds penned when people still used fountain pens. That's where I hit pay dirt. The original 1896 deed with my great-grandfather's signature, containing 5 perfect words. Perpetual right-of-way granted. From my core legal coursework, I knew about prescriptive easements. Use a road for 99 continuous years, and the law says it's yours, whether the neighbor's picture fit or not. Sometimes the old rules are the best rules. I filed my counterclaim that afternoon. Ruth, the courthouse clerk, who'd probably been there since the foundation set, stamped my paperwork with visible satisfaction. That Valcrest woman's got more complaints against her than a telemarketer, she whispered conspiratorially. Marina's reply landed faster than a NASCAR pit stop. By Thursday morning, my access road looked like a crime scene. Bright yellow no trespassing signs popped up like weeds, complete with prosecution threats that would make a drug dealer think twice. She'd hired private security. One kid named Kyle, about 19, clearly regretting every decision that led him here. He was sunburned the shade of a fire truck, swimming in a uniform that could have fit 2 of him. "Sorry about this, sir," Kyle mumbled as my truck rolled up. His radio crackled with what sounded suspiciously like someone ordering a Big Mac. "Ma'am says I gotta check all vehicles for authorization." Through the windshield, I spotted Marina on her mansion's deck, watching through binoculars like some suburban spy. The woman had turned property harassment into an Olympic sport. "Kyle, you know this road's been in my family longer than that house has existed, right?" He shifted like he needed a bathroom, wishing he'd taken the pizza job instead. "Yes, sir, but orders are orders." I handed him a copy of my prescriptive easement filing. "Give this to your boss. Tell her I'll be using my family's road whether she approves or not." As I drove past, gravel crunching under my tires like Marina's dreams of easy money, Kyle stood there reading legal papers with the look of someone trying to understand quantum physics. The community response that evening was pure gold. At Murphy's Marina, Nora rolled her eyes so hard I feared she'd sprain something. She cited the Johnsons last month for having a fire pit on their own lot, she said. Called it a visual disruption to lakefront aesthetics. The hardware clerk, Trent, quietly slid legal forms across the counter with my box of screws. "On the house," he winked. "We're all pulling for you." By Sunday, 3 neighbors had shared their Marina war stories. wind chimes as auditory pollution, fishing boats as aesthetically incompatible. The woman had more complaints than a restaurant health inspector. The battle lines were drawn, and David was about to show Goliath that sometimes the slingshot wins. Month 2 hit like a freight train loaded with bad decisions and diesel fumes. I woke up at dawn to the racket of heavy machinery, a migraine in mechanical form. Outside my cabin window, Lake Clearwater looked like a construction site that had exploded. Barges stacked with lumber, cement mixers floating on platforms, and enough yellow hard hats to outfit a marching band. Marina had gone nuclear. Her new project, Clearwater Island Resort. 32 identical rental cabins sprouting across my family's land like a contagious rash. The air smelled of sawdust and exhaust instead of coffee, and hammering began at 6 a.m. sharp, because apparently even chaos had to respect HOA noise ordinances. I'll give her credit. She had nerve. She'd broken ground without permits, claiming the island qualified as multi-family recreational zoning. That was news to me, considering it had been designated residential wilderness since my great-grandfather cleared the first trees. I spent that morning in the county zoning office, a building so bleak it looked like hope had given up there decades ago. The receptionist, a weary woman named Glenda, didn't even look up when I spoke. "You'll want Director Matthews," she sighed. That turned out to be Richard Matthews, Marina's ex-husband. Small world, smaller ethics. His mustache screamed, "I peaked in 1987, and his handshake felt like overcooked noodles. "Mr. Whitlock," he said, leaning back in his chair like a king on a crumbling throne. "I understand you have concerns about the island development." "They're building on my property without permits," I replied. Matthews tapped his keyboard with all the enthusiasm of someone checking the weather. "Actually, I fast-tracked an emergency development permit yesterday. Island qualifies as commercial recreation under new county guidelines." Right. Guidelines written by his ex-wife's legal team. That's when my military instincts kicked in. When local authority is compromised, you go up the chain of command. Environmental violations are federal, and the EPA doesn't care who's sleeping with whom. That afternoon, I called the State Environmental Protection Agency. Investigator Sandra Chen sounded very interested in my photos of disturbed eagle nests and dumping near the lake. "We'll be out there Monday," she promised. "Keep documenting." By Friday, Marina was celebrating her construction milestone with champagne on a barge. The cork pop echoed like a gunshot across the water. Her laugh drifted over, bright and cold as a dentist's drill. Her Instagram post that night made my jaw clench. Dreams don't work unless you do. Hashtags, #bosslady, #lakelife. She stood in a spotless hard hat posing beside lumber, while workers pretended not to roll their eyes. Then came the accident. 3 of my solar panels somehow cracked during crane operations, conveniently off camera. The foreman, a bear of a man called Big Mike, looked genuinely sorry when he came to explain. "Real sorry about that, Mr. Whitlock. Accident happens, you know." The tone in his voice said he didn't buy it either. What Marina didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything. Photos with GPS data, timestamps, violation logs. Every spill, every illegal dump, every accident. The EPA's eventual report would read like a disaster novel. Sewage runoff, debris in the lake, and 1 illegal eagle nest disturbance. As I watched another barge arrive, I almost pitied her. She was spending a fortune building on land she didn't own. Almost. Every nail driven was another dollar she'd lose later. Month 3 brought a new front, paperwork warfare. Kyle, the poor security kid, trudged up my path again carrying an envelope thick enough to use as body armor. It was a nuisance property complaint, complete with zoom lens photos of my cabin, accusing me of everything short of witchcraft. My composting toilet violated health codes, my rainwater collection endangered the environment, my existence offended community standards. Marina wanted the county to condemn my cabin and kick me out. So, I called the county health inspector myself. Inspector Rodriguez spent 3 hours checking my setup. "This composting system's cleaner than most septic tanks," he admitted. "Rainwater collections textbook. Honestly, this cabin's sturdier than half the homes I inspect." Then he dropped a bombshell. The new cabins had 14 missing permits. Septic, environmental, wetlands, you name it. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request that afternoon. The government may hate transparency, but it's required to hand over what you ask for if you know how. The results confirmed Rodriguez's word. 14 missing permits, fines totaling millions. That same evening, my old squad leader, Tommy Kowalski, showed up looking uneasy. "She hired me," he said, handing me a beer. "Wanted dirt, or to make some up." Apparently, Marina had started a smear campaign. Fake Facebook profiles, edited photos, and petitions claiming I'd threatened workers. It was a masterpiece of fiction. But that night, sorting through my great-grandfather's papers, I found the weapon that would end it all. The original 1896 survey map. The current record said 31 acres. The hand-drawn map said 47. The missing 16 acres? Exactly where Marina's mansion and half her resort stood. Every cabin, every dock, every lawn ornament. Mine. The mistake dated back to the 1987 county digital conversion. Glenda had mentioned that year in passing. "A lot of records got simplified," she'd said. "Simple corruption. More like it." I knew then what had to be done. Direct confrontation would just make her dig in. Better to let her keep building. Every improvement adding value I could legally claim later. Lena's voice echoed in my mind. "Patience, Jonah. Let them hang themselves with their own rope." I assembled a legal dream team like a Marine unit. First was Rebecca Storm, environmental lawyer with a vendetta against corporate bullies. "This is why I went to law school," she said, grinning. Next came Frank Morrison, a real estate veteran with 40 years of experience and hands that looked like they'd held hammers, not just pens. "Quiet title action," he advised. "These original surveys will win in any courtroom." Third was Colonel Patricia Hayes, retired JAG officer. "Timing," she told me. "Let them keep digging. Every day of construction is another day of trespass." We launched a crowdfunding campaign, Save Veterans Family Island from HOA theft, minus $2.3 million in illegal profits. "That's before fines and damages," she said flatly. Meanwhile, I ran my own quiet campaign of decency. Sandwiches and cold water for the construction crews. Big Mike started sharing inside info. "She's working us double shifts," he muttered. "Says she needs cash flow to cover loans." Translation: Marina was drowning in debt. By autumn, the trap was ready. Marina tried selling all 32 cabins at a discount, desperate for quick cash. I filed lis pendens notices on each one, legal red flags warning buyers of pending litigation. Within hours, deals collapsed and panic set in. Her ex-husband, Matthews, turned up with a briefcase of bribe money, 200 grand in cash, to drop the case. I recorded the whole thing on my phone. His nervous voice, his twitching mustache, his slip about questionable permits. Gold. Marina escalated with noise harassment, security inspections, midnight generators, fake code violations. But my cameras caught everything. The community saw through her act. Support signs appeared across town. Murphy's Marina organized a boat parade. Even kids drew "Don't let the mean lady take your house" cards. Then came her last stand. She bribed a building inspector named Briggs to condemn my cabin. 10-minute inspection, fake report. Unfortunately for them, I'd had a certified engineer inspect it 2 weeks earlier. Perfect condition. Briggs's corruption got exposed within hours. The courtroom showdown came on December 15th, 3 years to the day since her first visit. The place was packed. Veterans, reporters, protesters. I wore my Marine dress uniform, Lena's locket under the collar. Marina strutted in with a team of overpriced lawyers. The judge, Samuel Crawford, opened with gravel in his voice. "This is a quiet title action regarding disputed boundaries at Lake Clearwater." Her attorney painted me as an unstable veteran trying to extort money. Rebecca stood and dropped the hammer. Exhibit A, the original 1896 survey map. Exhibit B, the doctored county record. Exhibit C, the 3D overlay showing every cabin and mansion squarely on my land. The courtroom gasped. Marina went pale. Then came Exhibit D, the bribery recording. Silence. Rebecca's voice was steady. This is not a boundary dispute, Your Honor. It's property theft disguised as HOA enforcement. The judge didn't even hide his disgust. The verdict. Full ownership returned to me $2.3 million in damages, legal fees, and a permanent injunction against harassment. The gallery erupted. Reporters flooded out. Veterans saluted. Within 72 hours, all 32 cabins and Marina's mansion legally belonged to me. Her HOA dissolved. She fled to Florida, where I hear she's now tangled in some timeshare scam. We transformed the site into Clearwater Veterans Retreat, a healing sanctuary exactly as Lena envisioned. Big Mike became foreman, turning Marina's garish mansion into a community center. The illegal septic systems were replaced. The lake recovered. The Eagles returned. The $2.3 million funded the retreat, the Lena Whitlock Memorial Scholarship for military families, and a legal defense fund for other victims of HOA corruption. Rebecca's win inspired statewide reform requiring survey verification in property disputes. Every December 15th, the town holds Island Independence Day, a celebration of truth over greed. Veterans share stories under the pine trees. Kids learn that justice matters and the lake lies still again. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rebuilding something beautiful from the ashes of someone else's arrogance. The water's calm now, eagles circle overhead, and the veterans' laughter carries across the lake. Somewhere in Florida, I hope Marina finally understands. Karma may take its time, but it never forgets.